Hi, it's Alexis.
And Christian from Tiny House Expedition. And we built our tiny house way back in 2014.
With the help of friends and family, over 9 months of ups and downs and trial and error, it was all worth it in the end.
We built a cozy custom home of our own that led us to an adventure of a lifetime. And now we're working on a shuttle bus conversion.
In our DIY Tiny Home Build Stories series, we hope to inspire and empower you to take on your own build by yourself or with help.
I needed help. I definitely needed help.
Hey, I'm Jen.
I'm Dave.
This is Mira and
Newt.
And we are in Arizona traveling in our tiny home.
Delia.
It never occurred to me to do it until a random conversation we had on vacation to the Outer Banks. I think you even asked me, have you ever heard of tiny houses?
Oh yeah, this was all my idea.
And I said, yeah.
100%.
And she said, we should build one. And I said, okay. And that was really it. And then we just spent the rest of the vacation talking about it. And I remember our youngest daughter said, you guys better not flake out.
Yeah, that was Maddie.
Because we are flaky. We're flaky people. Cornflakes. Can get them right here. I'm flaky. You're not. You're super solid.
I have nothing to say.
I know you don't.
I mean, we did a lot of research. We watched thousands of hours of YouTube. We graduated YouTube University and then built the tiny. Since tiny houses, while they're not mainstream, they've been around for more years now. So I feel like those first pioneers worked out a lot of kinks. And so we were able to learn from their pitfalls and not fall into the same holes. But so far, it's working out.
We didn't buy a lot of retail. The framing material was retail. I mean, sheet stock, for putting up the plywood and everything. That was retail stuff. But everything else was lots of lumber auctions and lots of the marketplace and Craigslist. And just hunting and pecking until the right materials popped up.
Which also added time. There's a saying that somebody else coined, but I use all the time. You can save money or you can save time, but you can't do both.
Yeah.
So.
I think I drove 4.5 hours one way to pick up all these shingles from a general contractor that had just been collecting them for years. I mean, it's the same story for most of the materials. Most of the window material, because we built our own windows, and golly, that's a story. That was all reclaimed lumber that we used to build those. What we didn't use as reclaimed material, we went to the lumber mill and bought raw lumber. We didn't buy anything at Lowe's or Home Depot or a box store. So all of the trim is like white cedar. I milled everything. Oh my gosh, I don't know how many hours I've spent in front of a planer, working on a jointer. I mean, we did everything. I don't know what else.
Short of cutting down the trees, he's done.
Yeah, I did not do like those
it.
Acorn to Arabella guys. I did not cut down the trees. Nice.
From conception to finish, it was 4 years. It took us a good year or so to get started.
It took us a year for planning, design and planning. If you don't know how to design, it takes a while.
Which we don't.
So it did. But I did, to the best of my ability, draw complete blueprints. We started the build in the driveway of some friends of ours. They were the first people we told that we were doing this, and they both said in separate conversations, separate from one another, oh, you should build it at our house.
Because we didn't have a place to build. We were, at the time, living in the city of Lancaster in a row home. And so we had street parking.
No place to
and no place to build.
Yeah.
So our friends from church offered their
Yeah,
property.
it was like, it was an immediate thing. Oh, you should build it at our house.
So we knew this was the solution for us, for a bed that went up and down. But because the bed goes up and down and it's not a traditional loft, we then were faced with this tiny 8x20 footprint where we had to squish both the bathroom and the kitchen completely up to the front of the trailer.
Yeah, and I don't mind giving props to other people building tiny houses. We actually got this idea from watching Anna White. Her and her husband have a YouTube channel, and they just build stuff, which is great. And they live in Alaska, and they happen to be building a tiny house around the time we started really watching lots of tiny house videos. And they had a customer that wanted an elevator bed. So it's a stolen idea. Thanks, Anna White.
Well, that's pretty much this whole build, because that's how we got the idea first and foremost from YouTube, and then we were only able to execute it from watching everybody else do it before us.
Yeah,
So and we got to pick and choose elements that we liked, things that we thought would represent us and suit us the best. So hence our tiny home.
The bed wasn't a kit. We designed that and built that from scratch. We built it in the workshop and then had to bring it in here and reassemble it because the frame is so big it wouldn't fit through the door. Even if it fit through the door, it wasn't going to fit to turn it to get it into position. So I built it, did all the dry fits, took it apart, painted everything, clear coated everything individually, and then brought it in here and reassembled it. So if we have to take it apart and do any kind of maintenance or do any repair, we can just take the whole frame apart, which is nice. Which really is the truth about everything in here. Because I built it, I know how it comes apart, and if we have to take something apart or remove something for maintenance, it won't be easy to do it, but at least I know how to.
We're not stick built. We have a steel frame. That was the biggest challenge.
We've got steel 2x4s.
Yeah.
So we couldn't just
cut in a new
hole and put in a new 2x4 sticker to replace the one we just cut out. If you're building with those steel 2x4s, you are stuck with whatever frame you put in place. Which, would I build with the steel 2x4s again? No, I wouldn't. And for that reason, because you can't make physical changes to your frame. You're stuck with it. And that costs a lot of money.
So we ended up with the butterfly roof, and the neat thing about that design is that it's not an accident that they kind of collapse in on each other. We did it for a water collection, essentially. In the front part of the trailer, there's what degree of an angle?
The front roof is a compound roof. It's angled this direction and it's angled that direction. So all of our, no matter how hard it rains, all the water runoff runs off to that corner. Basically comes down in front of this window, which is poor design, by the way. You don't want that going on. But we did that so later on, if we want to add a removable water catchment on the side, we've already got, all the water is already diverted to one central point, so we don't have to go, okay, how do we redesign? I'm not going to say I enjoyed 100% of this build. There were parts of it I wanted to just throw gasoline in here and just toss the match. You talked about earlier about how it's got this unique look from the outside, and I appreciate it now, but during the build, I hated staring at this project a lot of days. I'd come over here and look at it, and I'm just like, I don't even want to be here. And of course, then I'd have visitors, oh man, this looks great. I'm like, if you say so. You don't like it, you have to understand. I look at it every single day. And when you're staring at a project every single day, or at least for me, eventually you get tired of looking at it. And now I can look at everything again and I can appreciate the poorly done butterflies in the countertop and the copper sink and the handles and the paint and, you know, the imperfections, and I love it. by and large, having ideas for cabinets work out when I wasn't sure it was going to work out, having floors work out. I mean, just the whole thing. I love the chestnut the most, I think. The wormy chestnut,
Yeah, I was
the walnut
surprised
counters.
how nice they cleaned up, because when he would bring home those huge pallets of stuff, the wood did not look viable.
It looked like trash.
It did. It looked like trash. And then he would mill it down and plane it, and yeah, it's gorgeous. I love it. We don't have any like construction or contracting backgrounds, and we thought about hiring somebody to do the blueprint for us before we started building, but we ended up just doing it all.
Yeah, and if we made any mistakes on the project, that's probably the one. If you're thinking about building your own tiny house and doing it yourself, spend the money up front and have a professional do your blueprints, because they are trained to do all your system placements. They'll know where the studs in the walls need to be in order for you to be able to cut out for vents, for water lines, for whatever else, and you will save yourself a lot of headache during your build by having a professional do your blueprints right up front. It's worth every penny.
I mean, luckily he was savvy enough to work everything out.
Hey, it's Alexis again.
And Christian from Tiny House Expedition. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And to watch the full tour of the DIY tiny home you just learned about, click over here.